Oh my goshness! Oh, it's another Thoth Thursday. I don't know why I'm so excited about this one. I guess it's because it's the first of the year. I have a whole year of Thoth Thursdays under my belt now. And if you're interested, please go check out the other Thoth Thursdays. There's a playlist on my channel. Now, throughout all my Thoth Thursdays thus far, I have gone over the Hebrew letters in passing, okay? Like, literally, as we talk about the cards, it may or may not come up. And I realized, kind of trying to figure out, what I'm going to do this year in 2021 and, generate some good ideas. I've had a couple from you guys, so thank you. And if you have any more ideas or anything else you want me to cover in terms of the Thoth Tarot, because this is a chunky monkey, please let me know down in the comments or hit me up on a message like via Instagram. I'm always open to suggestions. What I have done, respectively, is I have drawn out, these are hand drawn, so please forgive this, the Hebrew letters, okay? Now, I know that right here, I crossed out the cards that are in order to put them in the order that Crowley put them in, along with Lust and Justice, respectively, as well. And if you want to know about the changes of those 4 cards, there's a video on that. So, I have put the cards in order right here. The Hebrew letters associate with the 22 paths. Along those lines, the 22 paths of the Hebrew alphabet on the Tree of Life correspond to the Major Arcana. Okay? Why is this important? Well, to be honest, you could pick up the Thoth deck and read with it without knowing anything that I cover. I like to dive into some juicy topics, and I like to research things. So if this isn't your cup of tea, that's by all means, click off. But I do like to know sometimes why certain symbols are in the decks. And there are so many decks that there are out there that have a lot of symbolism encoded into the cards, and that's what I like. With the Hebrew letters, with their correspondences with the Tree of Life and the Major Arcana, okay, there's a tie. Some of the cards are drawn in specific ways in order to reflect the Hebrew letters. Because, if we go all the way back to Eliphaz Levi, there's a correspondence. Like, nothing is a coincidence, basically, is what I feel like his motto would have been. And Crowley probably agreed with him. So, I'm going to set these somewhere. I'm sorry if you can't see the whole picture, as beautiful as it is. But I'm going to show you the cards because this is a Thoth Thursday. So I figured, why not show you the cards as we're talking about the letters? So let's get started. Sorry for the long introduction. The first letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Aleph. I believe that that's how you pronounce that. Let me say this one time. I may butcher the pronunciations of these. I did try to research it as best as possible. So the Fool corresponds to Aleph, which in all my research says that it means an ox. But Crowley, I keep wanting to say Crowley, and I'm so sorry. It's Crowley. Crowley wrote in the Book of Thoth about it being plow-like. Like it looks like a plow that the ox would have been pulling. And because the Fool card itself is that unmanifested universe, nothing is really happening yet, I kind of believe in that. I kind of believe in it not being the ox, but the wielder of said ox, if that makes sense. Like the person that is wielding the plow that the ox is pulling. And I firmly believe that because I feel like if the Fool is unmanifest, then the plow is pre-planting, right? It's pre-anything, garden, anything. This is what happens first in order for the plow to, you plow first and then you seed and then you water and then you have a garden. Like there's a process. And of course, in making anything, there's a process. Therefore, why would the universe be any different? So there's so much more symbolism on the Fool card. Check out yet another video of mine on symbolism of the cards if you're interested. But some of the cards are mapped out in the like style of the letters. And I'm going to get to that when we get to one of those cards. The Fool isn't one of them, okay? The Fool isn't mapped out to look like a leaf. And I believe that that's on purpose. I believe that there's not a plow here, but we get a little bit of something in the greenery of the Fool's suit. It's green to symbolize spring, which would be when we plow. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. I don't mean to ramble through this. We're just going to keep on keeping on. Okay. The Magician, the Magus. The Magus card corresponds to Beth or Bet, which means house. Now, I believe in this whole system of the Hebrew letters as kind of like a farm, right? Like a farm / estate, right? If you think of a stereotypical farm, like lots of land that's getting plowed, it cultivates something like corn or whatever, and there's a house, right? The house would be yet another main part of the entire farm. The house is where the family that does said farm lives, therefore that's needed as well. And I feel like the Magus is that. The house is going to be where all the tools of that farmer are, right? This could even be a barn. So I'm trying to give you a metaphor here because this is kind of how I understood this process. Is the Magus being the house, it's a tool, right? He uses his tools. So mixing them together, it makes perfect sense that this would be the house in which the farmer uses and has and houses all of his tools in order to help him with the plowing better. So that makes a lot of sense. This was so confusing at first because there is a camel on this card, right? It looks like the cigarette camel. But the High Priestess, or the Priestess in this case, is Gimel, which means camel. Now, Crowley in the Book of Thoth, again, you know, we're going off of that because that's the real reference here. He speaks of a camel water. And then I kind of thought about that and I was like, what does that mean? What does the camel puts out water mean? Well, after the plow, what happens? We water, right? We all know, if you've watched like Aladdin, you know that camels what? They spit. Their spit will water the ground. So it's like a metaphor within a metaphor here. The camel represents water irrigate, like in a healthy growth of the garden way. Not Mem, which is water of the hanged man, which we'll get to. It's a different kind of water. This is not even life-giving liquids yet. This is, I think, the pure H2O, like H2O. Not spiritual H2O, not life-giving liquids as in breast milk, okay? This is just plain H2O and what it does for us and vegetation. So I guess that makes sense. There's a lot of vegetation on the bottom of this card, along with some sacred geometry and things like that. I feel like the net in which the priestess here is holding is the net of the universe, but it could also be the net in which to catch fish. It could be the net in which to, you know how we see those things that are cutting the grain, those big machines that are cutting the grain. Something, it's like, because we've already gotten to the Magus, she would already know how to use those tools. And she's using them now. She's actually using them and doing something with them, right? He was just juggling them around, but I feel like she's doing something with them. And the camel is just a metaphor within a metaphor. Cool, huh? Okay. Empress. Empress is Dalet. Okay? Which means door. Now, I've heard that it's a door, but I've also heard that it's breasts. Breasts as a shelf. If you look at this letter right here, it does kind of look like one of those half tables, right? Not fully a table, but like a two-legged table that's attached to a wall, right? So I feel like the breast as a shelf. I think that it's just a symbol of motherly love. And when I say that, I'm talking in terms of like a plump, a pleasantly plump woman that you really, really like to hug because they give the best hugs because their bosom is so big. And I know that Crowley, he states that as well, that this card, yes, is the component of the Emperor, like the I guess the companion of the Emperor, like they're two peas in a pod here, like they go together, but that the Empress by herself is that nurturement, that loving, that mother love, deep-seated mother love. And that can be found in the bosom, if that makes sense to anyone. Which is really, really cool when we think of the breast, because we have the pelican down here that bleeds through the breast as breast milk. That's not really what happens, but there's a lot of symbolism in that. And I feel so cheeky when I think of Dillette being a door. Like a doorway to what, right? We've plowed something. We have a house on this farm that houses the tools that we need to plow. And we have a camel that will water. Okay, so we've got an irrigation system. And now we have a door. Is this door a portal? Is this door the door to said house? Like, I think that this could be some archaic notion of the female in the house, right? That old time archaic thing where the female stay at home and tend to the house. I'm envisioning this Empress standing at the doorway of this farmhouse or the barn, awaiting the man to come back from the plowing. As a counterpart to what he's done, she does so too. I don't know. That sounds very archaic, but I'm thinking that that's how that's going. Okay. I put Star here. Again, go check out some more Thoth Thursdays for some more information on all this. Star is hay, which means window. Now, window to me doesn't necessarily mean window. I think of window as letting the breeze in, right? There's a lot of twirling and swirling happening in this card, and there is some water, and there's some sacred geometry down at the bottom of here that would suggest that the hope that is of this card hasn't actually happened yet, that she is doing it. This figure here is twirling and swirling the universe, and it's like the soft breeze that comes in through the window that we feel, that makes us feel better, gives us hope, that type of thing. So I don't necessarily think it's a window. I think it may be an open window, like an open opportunity, like when, one door closes, another window opens, that kind of thing. I do think there's a lot of ancient symbolism within these letters as well. Like, what could a window have meant back in the day? Way, way back in ancient times, when our ancestors were living in huts made of wood, there was no such thing as a glass pane window. A glass pane window. It was an opening, right? So therefore, that could be how to see out, how to see in, letting the breeze and the wind come through to circulate the air in the house, that type of thing. So I'd like to rope all the way back to what that could have meant back in the ancient times. Even in the time that this deck, like Crowley would have put this deck, like those types of ancient culture, that ancient Egyptian culture that he loved so much. So anyway, I do think that the window here is the breeze and the swirling of that said breeze. So that's pretty cool. Now, the Hierophant is pretty straightforward. This is Val, which means nail. Now we could go off nails in the cross and Jesus and all that, okay? And this being the spiritual mentor here, the spiritual teacher, this cardinal, bishop, whatever you want to call him. The nail could mean all of that, and it could be none of that. Now, there's 9 nails up here that hook the snake to the rosy cross, which is a 5-petaled rose in the back behind this Hierophant figure. And I believe that what that means is locking down his position. It's locking, the nail is what we would have used to put a proclamation down. Kind of like a gavel. So, I don't know. To me, that means hitting the nail on the head. Getting it right. And also what the Hierophant represents to me. This nail in the coffin, that you are who I need. This mentor, how that makes me feel. Right? That's kind of where I went with that, with nail. Okay. Next is the Lover's card, which is Zane. Zane. Which I wrote sword, but I have heard that this could be weapon. Now, in terms of weapon, I don't know much about what that would entail. Okay? Now, I know that the swords here, because Crowley does say sword in the book, they are like shadowing, like encompassing this marriage of opposites here. So this is very much a chemical marriage. What possibly could the weapon be? Now, the weapon could be like the edge of a knife. Like these opposites stand at the edge of a knife from each other. And when they come together, they form this beautiful Vesica Pisces. Right? They form the sword with their two halves. That's where I got with that. Now, Chariot. Chariot is next, which is, now, I have read lots of reference books on like Hebrew letters, Words of Power by Damon Brand, things like that, on like pronunciation of Hebrew, and CH would have been kok, kok, right? Like that. Usually it's at the end of a word, but it's like kok. I hope you can hear that. So it's kek. I hope that that's how you pronounce that. From all my reference materials, I hope it didn't let me down. So ket would be fence, but I think that fence means an opening into someone's land. If you think about like a ranch, right? Like that's the metaphor we're going with this. There'd be a fence around the whole property, and then there'd be a gate, like it would say like Rosie Thorn Ranch or some shit, and there'd be a gate there. I think that because he's in a chariot and he's in movement, he may be going through the said gate, either leaving or coming. So it's about the going and comings of the universe, in my opinion. And with him having this sacred amethyst holy grail here, maybe he's leaving with it to go protect it. You know, this could be something Indiana Jones. So I do feel like the movement here is the coming and going through property and what that may have looked like back in the day. Even in Crowley's time, like what that would have meant, a fence. Even though these go way beyond Crowley's time, these Hebrew letters, okay? So, fence, chariot, I'm linking the two. I do believe that it's symbolizing an opening. Maybe an opportunity, much like Back to the Window. We're getting faced with all these things. That's interesting. Lust. It's like my favorite card. One of them. I won't say my favorite because I hate to make them all feel bad. Is Tet. Now, we've switched them. Okay? In terms of the deck itself, this is number 11. So he kept them in their same spots. He just rotated the Hebrew letters. Again, go watch that other video that directly talks about this. So, Lust is next with Snake. Which in turn, like in terms of the Rider-Waite, would have been Strength, okay? 8 is Strength. So, and Lust corresponds with Strength as well, not Justice, or Adjustment in this case. But Snake, how could that relate to Strength? Right? It really wouldn't. When I think of Snake, I automatically think of Eve. I think of the serpent in the garden, and I think of what that represents. And I believe wholeheartedly that knowing that this means snake, it also means twirling. Like a twist. Twisting, really. Twisting. If that's the case, I think you think of a python, right? And it's twisting around you and it chokes the life out of you, right? It's like squeezing. I kind of think of it that way. How that would have been back in the day. That representation would have been so powerful. Snakes have so much symbolism in and of themselves, but in terms of this system here of the Hebrew letters and corresponding to the tarot itself, I feel like the strength, of course it being Leo, so we see the lion in the Rider-Waite-Smith system, but then one step further, we know that the strength is about primal urges, right? It's about not really controlling them, but knowing when to give and take and things like that when it comes to your urges as a human. And so snake very much makes me feel like Eve and how she was tempted and those things and not knowing anything about her primal urges because they didn't know anything about that back then. They were just pure beings, and then all of a sudden she started getting these urges. It's like, how do I face temptation if I don't even know what the hell, you know? She had no clue about the ramifications of any of it. So, not that we're getting into the creation story right now, oh my God, but it just made perfect sense. Especially knowing that this is, the beast isn't a serpent. Okay, but this is supposed to be representing the Whore of Babylon and the seven-headed beast from Revelations. But that links us back to the Garden of Eden story. It all links together. So, again, that made sense to me. I like how Crowley did that. I like that it was changed because I would not have gotten snake from justice. I wouldn't have gotten twisted from justice. All right, Hermit is Yod. Yod. Now, I want to say something about the next two cards, which is the Hermit and the Fortune card, okay? In terms of this system of letters, let's move these out of the way. It says hand and palm, a closed palm, which we see right here in the bottom of this wheel in Fortune. Now, the hand is an open hand, and the palm is a closed palm, according to Crowley, right? And more than him, other research as well. So I started thinking about that for a second and how Yod is the hand, but it's open. It's receptive. This letter also corresponds to sperm. And we see the spermazoon, you know, right here, the spermazoid. The wheat that we've been cultivating, right? We see that, the growth. We see the Orphic egg, right? Our hand is out receiving all of this knowledge, right? We have to get our lust for life, our lust in check, so that we can better control ourselves, so that we can gain all of this. Because guess what? I hate to break it to everyone, and I'm sorry if you're a prude, but if you don't get lust in check, a lust for life, this could mean anything, food, greed, sex, whatever, we would let that shit run rampant, right? We would never leave our bedrooms. We would never leave the kitchen if we didn't have some sort of semblance of control, right? We would just constantly be eating cheeseburgers with our hands down our pants. So, but if that's true, we wouldn't be paying attention to the bigger picture. And I think that that's what the Hermit card is all about, especially in terms of this system right here. It's about the introspection, yes. It's about the control, yes. We've gained the control from the lust card and from the snake twisting us all up and choking us down, okay? Sorry for the pun. And then we get to the Hermit. It's demanding us to open our eyes to the bigger picture. It's demanding that we see what we are able to cultivate with said control. Because we've got to be able to gain something from this control, right? Like I said, otherwise we'd be eating cheeseburgers with our hands down our pants. Looking for the small end goals, not the big end goals, which in this case is a pregnancy, is the Orphic egg in terms of the macrocosm, the wheat in terms of our garden. Right? If we're stuck in our bedrooms all day in subspace, we're not giving a hell about our garden. Okay? So I think that that's what the Hermit is demanding, especially with the receptive hand. Open your hand. But then we get to the wheel, which is Thoth, which means palm, which is closed. This is receptive. This is active. And I think of these almost like opposites to one another, right? If you think about it, give me, go away, right? This is fight or flight. Actually, this is freeze, which is the third in that instinct, okay, that nobody likes to talk about. But there's fight, flight, freeze. So that could be fight, flight, or freeze. In this case, it could be either one, I don't know. But there's an active and a passive nature in both of these cards. And I think that that's why they've associated them with the palm and the closed fist. So, not that we see a hand here, we see all the symbolism we need in both. So, I just wanted to go on my spiel with those two. Okay. Let's move this up here. Because it's got the shadow of the window all up in my shit. Alright. Justice is next. Again, there's been a change, people. It says it's an ox goad. Now, what that means to me is that stick that you whip the ox with to get it to go when you're trying to plow. Like a whip. But it's not a whip. It's a cane. It's a staff. It's a stick. Okay, it's an actual like hard stick. But then I thought about that as a stick and how symmetrical that stick is. It has a left side, it has a right side, it has a top and a bottom, just like the Justice card. Makes perfect sense. Wouldn't have made sense for lust, I'll tell you that. Unless you're into canes. Much love if you do. And so, Lamed, as an ox goad, made me think of the brutality of that. The brutality of us beating those animals to get them to go to do our bidding. And how, in terms of justice for others and ourselves, there's a brutality in that. There is a sacredness, you know? There's an accomplishment, but then there's also accountability in that, and how brutal that can be. And the cane makes perfect sense, because when we focus and put our mind on justice and adjusting to things, it can be hard. It can be like getting whipped with that ox goad. So, that stick, or that cane, stands on the precipice between Omega and Alpha. Okay, on to cleaner waters. We get to the Hanged Man. This is Mem. Oh, Mem means water. But I've touched on the Hanged Man before, that this isn't H2O. This is spiritual water. Okay? Spiritual water is baptism water. Holy water. The waters we cleanse ourselves in terms of rebirth. Okay? So there's a lot going there. It calls it water, but it's not. It's something completely otherworldly than that. And that's what we see down here in the bottom of this card. This Hebrew letter itself, Mem, also means reversal. It means turn it around, which is why the Hanged Man is upside down, because of the Hebrew letter. It literally, when you look at this, I drew it this way because I saw this drawing. Not on, you know, because they're at the bottom of these cards, which are kind of wonky, to be honest with you. They're like stretched in some places. They don't look like the real thing. So I referenced something else for this. But when I looked at the real letter, it looked like this. Look at the head. And this looks like the arms bowed back behind them. And they're like on their knees, right? Kind of like a yoga pose. And when I thought of that, I thought, well, that's stretching. They're bowing their back, thrusting their chest forward, maybe right before a backflip, right? I know you can't do it from this position. I'm just saying. I kind of thought of it in terms of a person and what that may look like. But it does mean reversal. It means turn upside down or turn around, really. And it also means water. Put it all together and you've got someone hanging upside down from their spirituality, this ankh of life here. And then you go down into the waters, these spiritual waters, in order to cleanse yourself of all that you've gone through. Right? Again, we're not looking at the first couple of cards as that's not fully manifest. We look at all we've gone through here. Like in these couple of cards. All that turmoil, you know, and then once we beat the death out of ourselves with all that we've gone through, we finally get justice for ourselves, let's just say, we have to kind of cleanse ourselves in order to wake up. It's almost like a spiritual awakening. So I wanted to make that clear that this isn't H2O water. Now, nun for death means fish. Fish, again, doesn't mean fish as in we see it. This is fish as in sustenance, okay? The fish is the life that is in the waters. Right here in this card, death, Osiris here is underwater. I mean, we get all kinds of feelings with that. But when we look at the Hanged Man, these waters down here with the serpent and the black of Saturn and all of that, we see that replicated here. This is down here in the water. We are now in the waters that the Hanged Man has dunked himself in. Now, as great as that is, the fish is important here for the life that is inside. The new life that is inside the water. The new you that is inside the water. That's what the fish is symbolizing. Nothing else. It means, I think it's a promise. I think it's a promise that once you make your mind up to go into the spiritual waters of the Hanged Man, you will have life again. Missy, I'm sorry. You will have life again. You have to die. Going into those spiritual waters means death. Right here. Cool, huh? Semek, which is art. Now this says prop or prop up, like a awning or a porte-cochere or something like that, right? Not so much porte-cochere because that's, you know, that's rich. That's too rich for my blood. But I believe that what's being made here in this alchemical combination of opposites here, this is the full consummation of the marriage of opposites that happened in the Lovers card, as we all know, if you're familiar with this deck at all. But prop, to me, prop up is protection, right? So what they're doing here is they're making this. They're making this in the cauldron. What they are making is the Orphic egg, okay? They're finally making it. So consummation, right? They're getting fertilized. So we got the Orphic egg happening here, but there's a protection, right? There's like the protection of the womb, right? Because it's an egg. So let's go that route, I guess. But it's a covering. It's the shell of that egg, maybe. We're protecting this egg. We're making it because it's got a destiny, let's just say, right? Fully protecting what you've made. I think that's why it's called prop up. Now we're getting to the good stuff in the back half of this, okay? In my opinion. Let's cover these up. Now the devil, the devil's right here. I like how both Ein and Zadi look similar, but this, I couldn't convey it right, but Zadi looks a little thinner than Ein. So Ein is a little thicker in the drawing, but we'll get to that in a minute. Again, after we propped up, so we're in protection mode now, there's a lot of things that have to do with the face here, okay? And I kind of want to go over a little bit about what that means to me in a little while too. But Ein is I. Now, I think of that in a lot of ways. I think of the eyes of the windows of the soul, the eye as in the evil eye as in protection. And again, the prop up is protection. We're protecting the Orphic egg. What could the eye mean? Now, in terms of Crowley and Eliphas Levi, it's Baphomet, right? This goat-like demon figure that stands on this pedestal, right? But there's a protection in the eye of the beholder, a beauty in the eye of the beholder here. Doesn't mean eye as in your physical eye. I think it means eye like I see you, right? We've protected something, now we're really looking at it. We're looking at it for its destiny. We're looking to it for guidance. We're looking to the new Aeon for guidance. It's like looking forward to something, looking back, knowing what we've been through, and looking forward to something. I think that kind of represents the devil, and we can get roped up in looking back and not looking forward. We can even get stuck in the moment and not plan for a damn thing. Like I said, we're getting stuck in the bedroom. So you can get trapped here. And I think that's the message of the devil card, is that you can get trapped thinking too much on the past, being too spontaneous and in the moment to not give a shit about the future, or worrying too much of the future and not living your damn life. So it's a balance in life. And I think that's what this represents. Again, this is very phallic here, but I believe all Crowley was trying to say here is protect your balls, protect your house, okay? Look what your dick did. Take accountability for your actions. Oh, I'm sorry I got too graphic with that, didn't I? All right, my all-time favorite tower card of all time. Trust me, I've looked them up. Tower is pay, which is mouth, right? Now, I often thought about what mouth could mean. And I've recently done a video because the Tower is my card for the year for 2021. If you're here in that year, shoot me a comment below and tell me how bad you feel for me. But anyway, pay is mouth. This mouth of fire here. I believe that the mouth, like the eye, doesn't really mean mouth. It could mean speak. It could mean breath, like the air that comes out of your mouth, fire that comes out of your mouth. The words we use to heal, to cut, to shame, to belittle, like to love. The sacred things that come out of our mouths, whether it be words, breath work, whatever, that's sacred work. And it can lead to destruction. You have to be careful about what you say. And of course, you have to take care of yourself in breath work as well. I think it's about that being your mode of being. Your human feature is in your mouth. Again, we're nodding back to the eye here of Ayin, of the devil. Like the eye of Pan is watching us, right? And in the aftermath of this, we get trapped, like I was saying. And when we get trapped, there's nothing else to do but let it all burn down. And use our most powerful tool, which is our words and our breath. So, I think that that's where that was going with mouth. All right, we finally got to the Emperor, which is Zadi, which Crowley, I think the only reason that, again, go reference that other video I made about the switch, but I think the only reason that he switched them was, one, because Zadi isn't Aquarius and the star is. So he looked, found a change that could be made, and he did it. Now Zadi, fish hook, but fish hook in terms of not a fish hook. It literally means a hook. That could mean an earring, right? A sign of not royalty, but it is kind of royalty. It's a position of power. The earring in Egypt would have been a position of power, like a gold earring. But the Hebrew letter Zadi actually means hook. It means chase. It means to hook someone in conversation, to hook someone in matrimony. Think about how cocky this motherfucker is, or would have been as an emperor, as this rich, entitled boy his whole life, right? I'm just saying here, I'm just putting some stereotypes down for all of us to understand, is that he would have been this very cocky, this very arrogant, like, figure who could hook anyone with their charms and get any girl they want, right? I'm just saying, like I said, I'm laying some shit down here. But it's about the chase. It's about the chase, and it's about catching stuff, like a hunt. It's hunting. And that would have been the emperor's position here, is the chase. Chasing something. Looking for sport. In the best of ways, in the best and worst of ways, I guess you could say. I think it's about the hook, the position that he has, the hook that he has with his charm and his arrogance and his cockiness, and the chase. Whatever he's chasing. He could be hunting deer, he could be hunting women. Or men. He could be hunting anything. I'm just saying, I think that it reflects the position of him itself. Now, right after mouth and after the destruction, it kind of makes sense. We want to go chasing another high. We want to go chasing something else. We find something else to kind of give us meaning, right? Now, when we put them back in order numerically, the star has very similar things here. There's a hope there, right? Go find your hope. Go find your light, right? The light of the star. But I believe the emperor has similar meanings in this case. It's about the chase. So when we burn it all down with our words, we have to go find something else to chase. It's a new hunt. So I think that that's what that's happening here. All right, the moon is quaff. Now it means back of the head. But just like the hand and the palm, there's back of the head and there's head. And when I look at these two cards together, I think of the moon and how there's a dark side of the moon, and the front side is really the sun. The front side of the moon is really the reflection of the sun. And I think that's what they're nodding to. Okay, forgive the pun again. I'm so bad at word games. But I think back of the head just means the shadow, right? Could mean the shadow parts of the head itself. And when we bring things into light, there is a happiness there. We feel like we're new people. Now, of course, I'm talking from a human perspective. There's bound to be a macrocosm in all of this as well. Like what the universe back, what's the universe's back of the head, and what would be their light. Now, as we all know, we revolve around the sun. So we'd have to go way, way far out to get to the back of the universe's head. I mean, way out. So I'm only thinking of this kind of in terms of a microcosm in this instance. So I think that the back of the head versus the head is about light. It's about the dark side of the moon and the light side of the moon, which is relatively the sun in, reflection. It's, again, about opposites and a sacredness in that. This abomination here, this turmoil, these yads, right? And I wanted to show you that, yes, these things that they're holding, these like keys, I guess you could call them, I often wondered why one of them, they're not the same thing. But one of them is actually the ancient Hebrew letter, how it was like written, is this one with the line through it. It's like, I think is that Mercury, I guess. It's that circle with the line all the way through it is how they would have wrote cloth way, way back in ancient times. So that's a nod to that. There's a lot happening here. This is Earth, right? Again, we're looking at the moon here, but I think that they're reflections of each other. It's a dualism. And I think that that's why the meanings, head and back of the head, are so... Because we all know what that could mean. We all know the front of the head, we're talking, we're speaking, we're thinking, but then the back of the head, all the things that we may have shoved in the shadow, the illusions, the dreams, all of that happens. It doesn't happen in the front. It doesn't happen in the sunlight. So there's lots to go with that, but I'm going to stop there. Then we have the Aeon card, which is Shin. It also, I want to say that my research turned up more than tooth, but I was wrong. Now, Crowley says that it means 2 front teeth, like in your mouth. So I thought, okay, with teeth, or tooth, is how the research goes, we've gone from mouth, which was the tower, right? We're spouting all our shit out. But we've hooked things, we're chasing new things, we're figuring out our shadows and our versus our lightness, and then what's our teeth? What could that mean? The sharpness of us as a new person, right? It's the Aeon specifically is about turning a new era. So after we've done all the work, there's a sharpness to us. And I think that that's what tooth means, sharpness. Not sharp as in knife. I mean, sharp as in don't bite the hand that feeds you type of a knowledge. Really, it's a knowledge. It's a sharpness of mind that the teeth are symbolizing here. And I love how it's shaped right here with the three versions of humans, which are what we see in the Rider-Waite-Smith system, are the humans like on the graves. Crowley just, I believe between him and Harris, they roped out, mapping out what Shin looks like. And I'm sorry, the sun is Resh for head. I know I got off on a tangent earlier. And then the last card, because I've been talking for so long, is cross. Now the way Crowley initiates cross in this is by the 4 corners. There's a 4-fold system of the universe. That's what the cross means. It's not a cross as in terms of like Christianity cross. It's a almost like Knights Templar cross. It's a very symmetrical cross. So we have to think of that, all the 4-fold of the universe, the 4 elements, the 4 seasons, things like that. And the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac, that's why they're present on the edges of this card. That's what Tao means. The 4-fold system of the universe. And how we need all of those things to continue to have a universe. If we didn't have air, we couldn't live. If we didn't have water, we couldn't live. Things like that. And I think that this is just a very real way of looking at the universe as a whole. Also getting us to think on all the 4 folds of our universe ourselves. And then meditating on what that could mean in terms of macro and microcosm. So, I hope that this was informative and a little bit fun, because I can get pretty cheeky with my findings. I will try to put this on a Google Drive file for you, and maybe it'll lead to something. If you find anything out with the Hebrew letters, maybe you have different like metaphors or meanings behind them and why they mean what they mean, tell me in the comments. I would love to hear from all of you. Come back in a couple of Thursdays for some more Thoth love. Much love.